A very good morning to you, our viewers. This is the Camnet Breakfast. My name is Sharon Kalimbula. As usual, I am with Patrick Soko on the other side, on the other chair, actually. When I say the other side, it would be as though he's not even in this room. But yeah, I am with Patrick Soko on the other chair. Good morning, Patrick.
Morning, Sharon.
Why do you
How are you
sound
feeling? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, thanks.
Yeah, because I remember I had to host Alex Chishimba on your place because you were not feeling fine. But good to be back.
God is good. I'm good, thanks. And we are back once again talking about policy and politics on the Thursday edition of the Breakfast Show. And we are glad that you could join us as usual on this platform. You can call us or send those text messages with regards to the topic that we are discussing and everything and anything else that's happening in your community that you want to communicate to the authorities. We will be delving into some of the stories as usual on our segments we call Zooming the Headlines, and we'll also look at the money markets as well as the doctor on air, and she will be, or he will be, talking about one or two things that you and I would want to learn about. Patrick?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so those are the things we'll be talking about. And a little later, we'll be joined in our interview by Bonshot Living Toe, Executive Director, Mr. Ntarasha Chisha, who's going to help us discuss various issues pertaining to matters involving persons with disabilities in the country. And just now, we're going to take our first segment we call Morning Boost.
Keep fit.
Good morning and welcome to our morning breakfast, and this is the Morning Boost, and I am your presenter, Isaac Matsa. I am here so that we can be able to do a warm-up exercise together just before you go about your day. All right, as usual, we are going to start with a warm-up. There we go, warm-up. 1 minute warm-up. After that, we'll be able to do some mountain climbers. Just that. For a minute. Let's go. How was your night? Say something so that we know where you're watching us from. If you're watching via Facebook, let's go. By the way, this is what I'm doing. See that? That's the workout all together. You're going to feel your calves actually. You're going to feel your legs. 1 minute warm up. Let's go. And let's change to the warm up. That protein. Go. 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 Down with the warm up. Getting into a wake up now. Let's go. Faster. Faster. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Let's see, today we're going to do something different. Let's do this now. Go down. Lay flat. It's a 3-minute workout. Bring in your leg out, in, out, okay? In, out, out. That's the workout you're going to do now. So you come here, go down, body posture like that. Let's go. 1, 2. Let's work on the tummy. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's your first 10. So I'm going to do another 10. Let's go. Same thing. Down, straight up, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you're doing it correctly, you're going to feel your arms. 10. Okay, so that's 20. I have 2 more sets. Remember, just 5 minutes every morning. That's all you need. Okay, 3rd set, let's go. 1, 2, 3. You should feel your arms. 4, and the belly. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's my 3rd set. I'm gonna do the 4th one now. So that's gonna be 40. So I'm working on the tummy, also strengthening my arms. Let's go, last 10. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 40. So I've worked on my triceps and biceps, burning fat on the arms and the tummy as well. Okay, so the same workout. This time I'm gonna do it faster. Remember, it's a 3 minutes workout. Okay, so I'm good. 1 minute now. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, let's cool down. So try that. After you come back home, try to do those workouts. And they're going to work out for you perfectly. So this is very good for you every time you do that. So let's do now a cooling down now. Easy. Easy. You've done the workout already. Easy. Thank you so much. This is Isaac Matsa, and I'm going to see you again. Stay blessed and stay fit. Thank you.
Well, interesting stuff there from Isaac Matsa. And
why are you laughing?
Say myself, say I'm Patrick.
So,
and the way
this is what happens in the background.
Yeah, but there you have it. It's so easy helping us to reflect and understand the importance of exercising. Physical fitness is critical to ensure that we live a healthy life.
Indeed.
Because unsustainable or unhealthy lifestyles are contributing to NCDs, which are non-communicable diseases. Such as heart disease, and we need to make sure that we always try by all means to just keep fit so that we can preserve our lives, because you can cut your life short if you are not being cautious with what you eat and if you don't also exercise.
Okay, but why are you smiling when you say what you eat and your
Because
body?
I also want to emphasize that, Sharon, you need to eat healthy. That's what I want to emphasize as well as I'm making this reference. Yeah. So just now we're going to take another segment we call Camnet Health Talk, and Dr. Cynthia Lewis has been explaining to us issues pertaining to epilepsy, and you can also get abreast on some of the issues regarding epilepsy. Very important issues she has been bringing out on this segment, and we are going to ensure that we sustain this topic for this week. Then we'll be delving into another
topic next week,
so that we can be able to get abreast on various issues pertaining to health. So we're going to listen to Dr. Cynthia Lewis, a pediatric registrar at UTH. She's coming from the medical, the Association for Women in the Medical Fraternity, and they have been giving us various issues pertaining to health.
Yes.
And we just go into that clip. Let's
look at this.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Cynthia Lewis. I am a pediatric registrar based at the University Teaching Children's Hospital. Yesterday, my friend or colleague talked about seizures in children. We established that seizures are the motor manifestation of abnormal electrical impulses in the brain. Today we're going to talk about epilepsy, or as many of you would know them, fits, or uksamfula, or uksamfuka, as many people refer them to. So today we're going to discuss the difference between epilepsy and a seizure. Are they the same thing? So we established yesterday that seizures are as a result of different reasons. You could have perinatal reasons. These are problems that happen during labor and delivery. You could also have seizures come in as a result of an infectious process such as meningitis. You could also have seizures come in as a result of trauma. But with epilepsy, it is quite different. Epilepsy is as a result of unprovoked recurrent seizures is what would give you the term epilepsy. So, in our setting, what would cause epilepsy? Well, 90% of epileptic cases are idiopathic, or to say they have no known reason. The other predispositions could be the things my colleague talked about in yesterday's interview that I earlier alluded to. So in epilepsy, we have different types of epileptic seizures. They're divided into two broad categories, namely the focal seizures and the generalized seizures. So for the focal seizures, these are seizures that come in as a result of an abnormal impulse in one area of the brain. So depending on where this lesion is how the seizure would manifest. For example, you could have twitching of the eye, abnormal movements of the lips or lip smacking in babies. You could have fisting or boxing. You could also look out for abnormal movements of the lower limbs, especially in the neonates or the young children. In older children, you could look out for signs of absent seizures, which are generally an absent or blank stare lasting for a few minutes. Coming to talk about generalized seizures, these are seizures that come in as a result of abnormal impulses that spread throughout the brain. So the manifestation of these seizures affect the entire body. The most common presentation is the one my colleague alluded to, which is called a generalized tonic-clonic seizure. In this type of seizure, you would most likely see jerking of both the upper and the lower limbs. This is the most common manifestation of a seizure that most people tend to bring children to the hospital for. However, it's very important to note that that is not the only type of seizure. As we had discussed earlier, that I will just explain further on, different types of seizures would include a blank stare. They would also include fluttering of the eyes. Also, someone would present with the complaint of not having enough power, or what you call a drop attack, where someone would lose consciousness and simply fall to the ground. In other instances, you would have children who generally present with a short period of unconsciousness or confusion. They would present with a short episode of altered consciousness or confusion. They would tend to slur their words, and these are all things that we would need to look out for. Another thing that was touched on that we need to explain further on is how to manage a child who's fitting at home. There's a common misconception that children who are fitting should be restrained, and therefore the seizure would be aborted that way. Tomorrow we're also going to touch on different myths, including this very one, to see all the myths that surround seizures in children and also epilepsy in general. So, how is epilepsy diagnosed and treated? The diagnosis of epilepsy stems from a comprehensive history, which includes a birth history and a family history. However, the gold standard for diagnosis of epilepsy in children and also in adults is something we call an EEG. An EEG is basically a test that we do to measure the electrical currents that run through our brain, and would be a definitive diagnosis as to whether or not someone has epilepsy. Another gold standard we can use is imaging studies. We could use either a CT scan or an MRI. These imaging studies would basically show us whether there is an infarct or an abnormality in the brain which could predispose someone to these consecutive seizures or epilepsy. So what is the treatment for epilepsy? The treatment goal is to abort the seizures. So you have treatment that's based on aborting the seizure as the patients come in, and also for the long-term management of these patients. In terms of the long-term management, the medication is chosen based on the type of seizure that the child or the adult would present with. Since we've given you different seizure classifications, different seizure types, so you would know what to look out for. As the bedsiders or the parents or the guardians bringing in these children to the hospital, you would know to tell your doctor what kind of seizure it was, as that weighs greatly on the type of medication that would be used for the long-term management of these patients. Also, there's another common misconception that epilepsy is not treatable, which is not true, and we'll discuss this further tomorrow in our myths concerning epilepsy. In conclusion, it is also very important to note that people with epilepsy can go on to live productive and fulfilling lives and be valuable members of the community. With that being said, this was Dr. Cynthia Lewis coming from the UTH Children's Hospital. We'll see you tomorrow with 10 myths about epilepsy.
So there you have it. That's Dr. Cynthia Lewis talking to us about epilepsy. This week, like Patrick had mentioned, we are focusing on that very important health topic, and there will be actually the Association of Women Female Doctors will be talking to us throughout this week on epilepsy, and we're glad that we could be enlightened with so much information regarding this. You can still follow these conversations on our Facebook page and just see if you can learn one or two things. Patrick?
Yeah, I think this is an important topic, Sharon, and I think one of the things that I got to understand is that epilepsy is not what most people think, because if someone has epilepsy, they think they are mad,
yes,
or they have demons. Sharon, something like that. It's witchcraft. Hey, just because someone is having a seizure,
exactly.
You know, those kind of arrangement. It's so common in our
yes,
neighborhoods.
very common.
But
a lot of myths surrounding that.
So the program like this one helps you to understand that actually these are just myths, and the concepts as they should be. They're being explained by the doctors, and just be sure to catch the same segment tomorrow as we bring another episode of on our subject, which is epilepsy, so that you can get abreast, because there are also issues you can do to avoid the seizures as prescribed by the medical doctors.
Yes.
But in these communities, people tend to undertake all sorts of activities.
So superstitious.
But this is not a superstitious disease per se. It is manageable by following the treatment that is prescribed by the medical practitioners. So I think I hope you also managed to get to listen to that important clip. And just now we're going to get another segment on sports, so that we just get to understand what some of the sporting activities that have been taking place this week. And this week we are actually focusing on the Champions League. As you already know, the Champions League is on. On Tuesday, we had a match between Paris Saint-Germain and PSG versus Real Madrid. And Paris scored a late winner through Mbappe, and they won the match. And Real Madrid have a mountain to climb, if you ask me, and the next game to come as they play the return leg. And we also had Sporting versus Manchester City, and Sporting beat Man City beat Sporting by 5-0. I think Man City have automatically proceeded to the next round, because it will be a mountain to.
Is Sporting a team?
Yes,
Sporting
this
a
is
team?
it is. It's in Portugal.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a team where Cristiano Ronaldo was coming from before he went to Manchester for the first time. It's a very strong team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
has it made so much noise?
Yeah, that you are just interested in Manchester, and they never walk alone, guys. But,
maybe the PSGs of that world, the Real Madrid.
Yes, you want to. You usually associate yourself with big names. I know you.
Yes.
Yeah, but
I know you.
But Sporting there was beaten badly by Man City, and as games that were played as of yesterday, we had Salzburg and Bayern Munich. They played to a 1-1 draw. And Bayern Munich have a chance to see if they can salvage something in the return leg, if they are to proceed to the round of 8. And we had Inter Milan versus Liverpool, and the Reds were a better side yesterday, Sharon, against the Inter Milan. Inter Milan is equally playing very good this season, but the Rivers are doing a good job in the EPL, as you can see by the results. Some of the fixtures that are remaining yet to be played as of next week include the one Chelsea is playing against Losk, and as well as Juventus versus Villarreal. We're also going to have Atletico Madrid versus Manchester United. We're also going to have Benfica versus Ajax, and these are the games that will be played as of next week to finish up the first rounds of the rounds of 16. And we also going to have games, Sharon, in the Europa League, and that I hope we have the fixtures there. In the Europa League, we have Lazio versus Galatasaray. Then we have also have Gerik versus Rept Wen. These are games in the Europa. The Europa, Sharon, is that is the small version of the UEFA Champions League. Okay. I keep making those eyes, and we had Dortmund versus Rangers. They will be playing today as well. Zenit will be up against Real Betis. We also have Barcelona playing against Napoli. Then we have Sheriff versus Berg. And we also have Leipzig versus Real Sociedad. We also have Porto versus Lazio, Sevilla versus Diamond Zeg. Then we also have Atalanta versus Olympiacos. And these are the games that will be played in the Europa League. The interesting news of all is Barcelona now playing in the Europa League, because Barcelona through and through, these are teams that have been playing in the Champions League. Yeah. Unfortunately, they were eliminated and they have to play in the lower league, which is the Europa. And probably we just hope they can dominate this tournament and even emerge victorious.
So this league would be equated to divisions in here.
To say, okay, we may say, okay, this is the top 4 teams play in the Champions League. Those who win in the league. Mm-hmm. Then, if you are from 5 up there, mm-hmm, you go to play in the Europa League. It should be then it simply means that this is the lower division, the lower version. Even in Africa, we have that. We have the CAF Champions League and the CAF League. So if teams end up in the Champions League, those are teams that have made it. Yes, that are doing fine when others play in the league. But teams that are eliminated midway or along the way, they join into the UEFA League. And Barcelona was playing in the Champions League. They were eliminated and they have to play in the UEFA Champions League and the UEFA Europa League. And we just hope they can salvage something if they are to be sure that they are coming back, because they have to win the league. But if not, then it will be interesting. We're speaking the same language.
Exactly. If you fail to win, I mean, Barcelona is a big name. It's not a small name that would want to keep going down. So they will have to actually strive and maintain their position in the sporting world, the soccer world. So just now, we go straight into looking on how our kwacha is faring with other major competitors. I don't know where the Ajax came from. It's like an Ajax.
Ajax, but you other.
I think I was almost correct. I thought you would say Ajax. I was like, but anyways, your foreign exchange as at now stand at the United Dollars is buying at 17 kwacha 55 ingwe and selling at 17 kwacha 89 ingwe. The Great British Pound is buying at 23 kwacha 77 ingwe and selling at 24 kwacha 24 ingwe. The Euro is buying at 18 kwacha 89 ingwe and selling at 19 kwacha 26 ingwe. And the South African Rand is buying at 1 kwacha 16 ingwe and selling at 1 kwacha 18 ingwe. Those are your money markets as of today, 17th of February 2022.
Yeah, interesting stuff there. Some of the stories now we're going to zoom in our very important segment we call Zooming the Headlines, include the story, Sharon. We had a number of stories, but the interesting one is the mine, and I want us to talk to the people what they think about the issues pertaining to the Black Mountain especially those on the copper belt, so they can explain to us, they can share with us how this process is being managed. You know, the Black Mountain has been at the center of controversy by successive governments. And previously, it was the PF had a way of handling that. The MMD had a way of handling that. Now, the United Party for National Development Administration has a way of handling that. So we're going to play a clip where the Minister of Mines has actually been making, they made decisions on the administration of the Black Mountain. Now, they're also saying that if the youths are not going to manage the mine properly, or issues of accidents start to reoccur, then they have no option but to close it.
Completely stop the operations at the market. So you two out there can call in and send us those messages on this very important topic that we are discussing, the Black Mountain and its operations, as well as government's decision with regards to this. Like Patrick had mentioned, successful governments, or successful administration have dealt with this matter differently, and this time around, this administration is warning actually the people operating from there to say, if you don't adhere to these standards, you risk being shut down or to close or to halt the operations probably indefinitely. So that this happened yesterday when Paul Kabwe said, Minister of Mines, was meeting some of the youth from Copperbelt who came to offer solidarity and to actually honor the president for making such a bold decision to say the mines should be open to cooperatives and not political party cadres. Previously, Patrick, you are aware that the mines was, the Black Mountain rather, was mostly for the politically inclined cadres.
Formerly known as the Jelabos.
No, actually, it's not actually that the Jelabos are politically inclined. It's a common term used for people that are mining illegally, for example, on the copper belt. They are called Jerabos. But the other ones that we met, I think that was 2020, when Richard Musoka was Minister of Mines. Adon Torres came to meet him, and among them was the Member of Parliament for Uzakile, where the Black Mountain is. And he was also a Jerabo, for that matter.
Exactly. So, but again,
they wanted to be called small scale. They wanted to be called small scale miners and not Jerabos.
And what made them to be associated with that is it using the same Jerabo concept. It has been put in songs, and it was usually also associated with violence.
Yes.
So you find that these people would go to this same mountain and show that authority violently, like just like that. So the concept now was like, oof, you have to be a catapult to make it. Them. You see, then they realize to say, no, don't call us that because we want to be small scale miners, which is true. If you are Sharon,
they are small scale miners.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know, one funny thing is that they started wearing like Arabs, you know, those things. I was like, But anyways, let's zoom into this story. On the other side, you can call us as well as send those messages and give your comment with regards to government's decision to say the mine should be operated by cooperatives. Let's look at this story. On the other side, join us.
Several youths from the Copperbelt Wednesday came to Lusaka to present a solidarity message to the Republican President Hakainde Hichilema through the Minister of Mines and Mineral Development Paul Kabwe on the release of the Black Mountain. The solidarity follows the announcement made by the government 2 days ago that it was officially handing over part of the Black Mountain slag dump to cooperatives owned by Zambian youths and women who have been granted licenses to operate. While the Black Mountain has in the past regime been politicized, the mines minister has warned that government will not hesitate to shut down operations at the site if cadreism is to infiltrate the premises.
If we hear politics at the Black Mountain, we'll close it. We don't want, we have made it very clear even to the youth leadership, to the cooperatives that are there, confusion is not what we want. We want order. We want proper mining activities. There will be no politics. There will be, you will never find the, I have seen some, in the past, people could go with vehicles, ECO, whatever, on the number plate. Those vehicles, you never see them at the Black Mountain. there will be no party regarding at the Black Mountain.
The minister has since advised the beneficiaries to ensure that the resources made from the transactions are put to good use.
It's not money you just get and mess up. Use this money wisely, invest wisely, those of you that are involved, so that we can see, like my colleague has said, we can see a growth in the sector. We can see that you graduate, you own now mines, you begin to own mines apart from owning the dump sites. That's what we want to do.
And the minister has assured of no government interference on who the youths will transact with, regardless of their nationality. And Zambia National Youth Think Tank and representative from the United Party for National Development on the Copper Belt are elated by the development.
I'd like to request that you quickly introduce mine reforms, such as the already drafted Local Content Supply Bill, which will support local suppliers and contractors, as well as reforms that will regulate issuance of exploration and mining licenses. As you are aware, Honorable Minister, the current situation has disadvantaged a lot of Zambians, as the space has already been taken by foreigners who are having more than 10 licenses each.
When we were growing, we thought the Black Mountain belonged to 3, 4, 5 people. But now we have realized that you've given licenses to the Copper Belt youths, you've given licenses to women in mining, and you've given licenses to the communities that are going to be operating and benefiting from the Black Mountain.
While accidents have in the past been recorded at the Black Mountain, the minister has assured that safety measures have been put in place to minimize accidents, but if such occurs, it is of God's will. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
So there you have it. That's the story from the Minister of Mines, Mr. Pokabo. So when he was meeting the youths, I'm not sure if they are youths though, it's actually a mixed age group from the Copper Belt, talking about the Black Mountain and expressing confidence that they are headed for a better position and good policy with regards to the mining sector. We've just been corrected though that Jerabo actually means jailbed. It's a slang for jailbed, and most of the people that were operating in this illegal, I mentioned that it was illegal miners. Obviously, they were going to jail as often as possible, and that's the more reason why the name came about, to say Jerabos. Now I understand why they don't want it. Who wants to be called a jailbed anyway?
Yeah.
So
and I was talking to one Chitampakwa. He's one Bemba guy. He should have been also a jailbed, but I wonder why he was being found with these boys.
He survived.
He survived. He wasn't a jailbird, but we also had to call him that because he was part of. He knew most of these boys.
And he's actually the one who's saying even no. The reason why they were called Jerabo is a slang. He actually even knows the origin.
Yeah. This Bemba man also.
So before we go into discussing more about this issue, let's also look at the clip from Green Party President who was commenting on this same issue. Let's look at that clip, and then when we come back, we will delve into the discussion with regards to the Black Mountain.
What we know is that the 10% was exhausted.
Yeah.
So how much is now available to the citizens, the youths we are calling? How much is available, and how has it been acquired? Has it been coerced from the Chinese, grabbed by force, or what? And of that Black Mountain now, what is the percentage that is due to the youth? Because already that to cause wars at some point.
Yeah.
Because right now the way it has been made, the blanket statement, no policy direction, the youth would think the whole thing now belongs to them. If that has happened, we must know what has been the compensation arrangement for the Chinese. Because I think they spent about $30 million to get it from Chambishi Metals. And 10% shareholding for ZCCM, we were told it's been given to the youths. So what percentage now is available? And what will be the scheme of things?
And who are these youths?
Who are the youths?
The criteria?
Yes, because it just said, no, we have cooperatives. Cooperatives, which ones? When were they, at least during PF time, what they did was they said, submit your names to the DC. And the DC was involved in the selection of which cooperatives were going to run. or participate, or through which people could use as vehicles to participate in the mining. But this particular one is a surprise statement. We don't know what criteria was used to choose which youths are going to run that whole thing, how they are going to benefit, how the country is going to benefit at the end of the day, and there's nothing literally.
There you have it. That's another clip coming from the Green Party President Peter Sinkamba. He has been a very observer and analyst, especially in the mining sector.
Yes.
He follows these issues.
He's a corporate person. Maybe he's a treasurer.
Very issues. He follows them keenly. And yeah, so, but Mr. Sinkamba was bringing out very pertinent issues surrounding the administration of the mine. If you ask me, Sharon, this is because the concerns that are brought by Mr. Sinkamba pertaining to the issue of how they came up with the cooperatives. And which cooperatives are those? Whom were they submitting proposals to say, okay, we are proposing to be among those to be part of mining at the Black Mountain. Those are concerns Mr. Sinkamba is asking. Valid questions. Even us as the media, we were also taken by surprise, where we just thought to say, the mine will be run by 10 cooperatives. And
who are these cooperatives?
Previously, like Mr. Sinkamba explained, this mine was co-owned by a Chinese firm, and only 10% that was owned by the ZCCM was the one that was allocated to the Jerabos by then, under the PF administration.
Yes.
Now that we have the United Party for National Development government in place, we need to understand, have they also taken up that space for the Chinese? Or because the Chinese bought that mine from Chambeshi Minerals. So they, how come do we still have
10% flying around?
So we have the 10%, but we do understand this 90%. Have we taken it from the Chinese?
Or is it still in the hands of
mining?
Exactly.
So the dissemination of information by these government entities
is pathetic.
It leaves much to be desired.
That's just the word. It's pathetic because really, when you call for media and you're giving them information, I think it's important to have all the correct information to avoid speculation. Remember, Patrick, when this administration just took office, there was a lot of speculation with regards to who the president has appointed, what, because the communication channel was pretty bad, which is still bad even up to today. Someone was actually talking about taking care of the president in Brussels, where he is, without wearing a coat. That's a cold country. Everyone else is wearing coats, but our president is wearing a jacket. But anyways, so they actually brought it down to say, could this be poor communication or poor management of the president, you know? So these are things that we need to begin to look at and take seriously. They look simple, but very dangerous.
And when we talk about mining, Sharon, just because we are Zambians, it doesn't exempt us from transparency and accountability.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, you and I have a hand in those minerals. It's just not a preserve of those few who are just mining.
No.
We also have to understand
people
how is
the
tax arrangement. How are they going to be contributing to the treasury in terms of paying taxes?
Exactly.
So that they just have to mine and pocket everything. And the way the statement was coming out, it's like they're going to mine everything and pocket
everything.
But the aspect of transparency, as we call it on foreign investors, we need to call it on ourselves as Zambians.
All right, we have a caller. Let's just talk to them. Hello, good morning.
Yes, thank you.
Tell us your name and where you're calling us from, then you can go straight into your contribution. Samaka, are you calling from?
Solwezi.
Solwezi.
Yeah.
Okay, please.
When the media were you to ask how the cooperative?
No, there was opportunities, but clearly the information didn't come out.
Okay, so what we should do as the media, or is this not the platform
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Samakai.
contribution, Mr. Samakai.
Yeah, indeed. These are questions that we need to ask. Like we were mentioning, Patrick, from the time that we just zoomed into that clip. Like, okay, there's so many questions to this.
Yes. So, and we are going to find out from Prudence, the one who covered the story, if they were even given a hint on that. But for the information that is coming out is just that 10 cooperatives,
how they came about,
youth and women, those are things that are prominent. But when we're talking about transparency, yes, we need to just dig to say, who are these cooperatives? Are they registered cooperatives?
When were they registered?
When were they registered?
Because we have had scandals where people at probably the DMMU, Patrick, you are abreast of this information, they were given contracts to supply some things before their companies were even registered.
Yeah.
You know, in the previous administration. So obviously,
we may need to also
look into this. People might be given leeway to do certain things when they are not yet registered. They are in the process of being approved as cooperatives, because I hear it takes, I think, maximum probably a month for all the process of registration and what's to be approved. But then maybe some of them do not even have these certificates as cooperatives.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we will be looking into, and we will be giving you updates on this story. It's a very, very important topic and a story that we will continue to dig into until it reaches its logical conclusion.
Exactly, Sharon, because at the end of the day, Zambia is also taking mining of gold seriously, because, but again, if we are to demonstrate that we are going to be successful in terms of gold mining, we have to demonstrate that as we mine other minerals, just like at the Black Mountain, because that will be a replica to say this government is committed and serious about improving the mining sector and ensuring that Zambians benefit from their minerals. It's not just about benefiting. We also have to make sure that the taxes are going to the treasury.
Exactly.
All those things need to be done, because if we're going to do a pocket arrangement of hand to mouth, they mine everything and they pocket everything. But to what extent are we going to help the treasury?
And that's the more reason why we have cadre infiltration, because impia shilafula.
Yes,
and people begin to think, let me go, and and they begin to fight, and they begin to form these Arabic arrangements, you know, wearing all those white gowns and you know those, you know.
Yeah, then the gang just the image to say, okay, Sharon gang goes there and say, you stop mining here.
And you know, Patrick, there was a story I heard about these same people. They're quite. The stories are really quite bad and violent. I remember there was a story I heard that one of the ladies was dating a Jeraboa at some point and left to find another man and was having a kitchen party, you know, a wedding ceremony. And then this gang of Jeraboas went to that event and just whipped the hell out of everyone who was attending that event and ate their food.
Yeah, but that's the lawlessness we had, Sharon. That was the people were just using
the name,
just using the name of the party.
They really need to rebrand. They really need to rebrand.
Those issues, I think, they were prominent.
The small-scale miners really need to rebrand. So we just take a short break. When we return, we will be zooming into some of the stories that are still making headlines, and hopefully we will be talking to our guest that we are expecting, Mr. Ntalasha Chisha from Born Short Living Toll, talking about issues regarding disability and involvement in national issues of importance. So let's just take a break, and when we return, we'll delve into that. This is The Breakfast Show.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Are you a talented and gifted soccer player? Camnet Stars will be conducting trials for young players between the age of 14 and 16 years. You never know, you could be America or Europe bound this July.
We need to pick some players so that we can come up with a very powerful squad which is supposed to travel outside the country and do a lot of work for Zambian football.
Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School Playgrounds. Time, 14 hours. You could be the next big soccer star in Europe. See you this Sunday, 20th February 2022.
Do you have an extra car? Then make yourself extra money. We would like to put that car, yes, that car parked there, to good use to make you extra money on the side just through its service while keeping it safe and secure. Call 0765 02 3883 to register your vehicle with us today. Delpo Services. Service beyond satisfaction.
And bananas.
Working, waiting, this what you've been praying for.
You're still watching the Camnet Breakfast. My name is Sharon Kalimbula and I'm with Patrick Soko. We are still zooming into the headlines and we zoomed into the Black Mountain story, which is a very important topic of discussion this morning. You two out there, like we always remind you, this is your platform and you can send those contributions. Patrick, stop looking at me like that as if I'm saying the wrong things. Why? Funga my glasses. Funga my glasses, so that at least they should be. You know, people wear shades because they want to avoid you seeing that they are looking at you. I think you need that. So yeah, like I was saying, you too can send in those contributions regarding the Black Mountain and obviously some of the stories that are making headlines in your locality. You can talk about different situations that are happening and reach out to the authority. Like I always mention, when you speak through this platform, you're speaking directly to the authority.
Interesting there. Though you were worried about me looking at you, I was just trying to pay attention.
Like, you know, looking at me like,
I'm trying to pay attention to say, what are you talking about? Interesting. Just now we're going to zoom in another interesting story on Save, where Save the Children was making submissions to Parliament regarding children issues. And among the major pronouncement or recommendation they made was the aspect of ensuring that the Child Code Bill is enacted so that children can be able to benefit from its various issues it wants to tackle pertaining to child welfare. And we just hope that in the current session of the National Assembly, that bill will come to pass so that children's rights can be better safeguarded in the country. We go straight into that clip.
And listen to what Joe Musonda was saying. Joe Musonda. Joe Musonda.
Committee on Youth, Sport and Child Matters, receiving submissions from various stakeholders. In Zambia, children experience violence in a wide variety of settings, ranging from home and school to institutions. Being exposed to different types of violence, be it physical, emotional or sexual, or neglect, is painful and can be traumatic. Other child protection concerns currently being faced by children in Zambia include risk of forced early marriage, teen pregnancy, homelessness, insufficient birth registration, risk of exploitation or abuse, risk of contracting HIV, and the prospect of losing one or both primary caregivers. Wednesday, 16 February 2022, Save the Children appeared before the Committee on Youth, Sport and Child Matters. Save the Children Country Director Joe Musonda says the Child Code Bill is a milestone in safeguarding the plight of children and must be enacted in the current session of the National Assembly. Often, children are abused in the country, especially in rural settings, and the people responsible to protect them fail to do so because of lack of clear child protection laws.
You can have a bill, but without adequate financing, you're not going to implement the recommendations therein. I mean, at the moment, Zambia is really lagging behind many other countries. It scores very low on child friendliness, which may surprise you, but it's really to do with the inadequacies of the current law, so that it is currently possible for, and I mentioned child marriage is one example, but it is possible now for children to be married at 17, 16, 15, 14, it goes down because the law doesn't protect against that. So that's one really good example, if you like, of how important the Child Code Bill is. And actually, Zambia has signed up to many international protocols to protect children's rights. So when that bill is signed, then really, we will be doing so much more for all the children.
The organization also underscored the need to steer family strengthening to ensure that children are in the custody of their families and have a good upbringing, saying taking children to care facilities must be a last resort.
Children that really grow up in child care facilities really also face a number of challenges in terms of being able to effectively socialize like any other children that can grow up in a family kind of environment where there is that a loving environment that they need to grow up in such places. But also one of the key things that we see, like we pointed out, because of some of the caregivers being unable to provide for children within the home setting, some of them opt to send these children into child care facilities, which again, we are saying that this would not be the best mode for children to grow up, because the environment in the family, no matter how you could try to modify the setup within the child care facility, there is that difference, and children would still be missing that kind of environment.
Well, children represent the future, hence to guarantee that they grow up into responsible citizens is the duty of all adults. Patrick Soko, Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
Welcome back. You are watching the Camnet Breakfast Thursday edition, Governance and Policy, and we were just telling one of the stories on children welfare, and we're talking about the Child Code Bill, which is a vital document towards enhancing the plight of children in the country, and we just hope that this current session of the National Assembly will be able to take that on board so that the welfare of children in the country can be safeguarded. Another important aspect that came into that in that report is the concept of financing, because Zambia has various pieces of registrations, but when it comes to financing, it has remained a challenge that needs to be addressed, because policies just gather dust in these offices and they're hardly implemented, hence it becomes difficult. And talking about issues to do with children, it is the same when it comes to issues pertaining to matters involving persons living with cross-cutting disabilities in the country. And in the studios this morning have been joined by we have been joined rather,
yes,
me
I'm
and
glad
Sharon,
you had to correct
me and
that.
Sharon rather, by our interesting comrade, especially when it comes on the news side, with Ntala Shachisha, Bonshot Living Toe, Executive Director, and is going to help us discuss various issues pertaining to matters involving persons with disabilities. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you very much, and I would also want to welcome our dear viewers. Thank you for hosting me. I do not take it for granted. It's an honor.
We're happy that you managed to come through.
Sure.
To get started, Mr. Ntala Shachisha, first of all, why Bonshot Living Toe? And tell us about the mandate of your organization as we get starting with our conversation.
Well, Bonshot Living Toe is a non-governmental organization. Basically, our aim is to ensure that people living with disabilities are empowered We also have thematic areas that deal with the youths as well as with women. At our organization, we hold the view that the physical status of an individual should not be a barrier for that particular person to freely express himself in society. And it's our goal to ensure that there is an equal platform for people to succeed regardless of their physical status and their disability. We do quite a number of trainings as well as advocacy, which we use mainly as a vehicle and as a platform to empower people living with disabilities.
Are you a membership organization, or how, or you are just an organization also just
standing alone?
Mm-hmm.
A membership organization in terms of...
If SOCO wants to be part of the organization, to say, I want to join this organization and be part of it.
We are a membership organization, but we have criteria because our focus, mainly SOCO, is that we deal with people who are underprivileged. That does not mean that people who are fully empowered cannot be part of the organization, but it's just some criteria, processes that need to be followed before we incorporate them in our organization. But definitely we are a membership organization.
Mr. Talasha, the name says it all, Born Short, Living Tall. One would think it's just an organization for people that are short. What other, exactly, you know,
Yeah.
what other grouping do you look for and empower? I know you've mentioned about women, but the whole idea is with people with cross-cutting disabilities.
Definitely.
So is it about the height-related issues? Is it about being short alone or what? Just give us a highlight on that.
But it's not definitely, it's not an issue that it's not the focus of simply people who are short. Well, the inspiration actually of the name came based on the background where I come from, and we use the acronym Born Short, Living Tall, and dubbed it as an organization. You asked about the groups that we focus on,
yes.
Which we earlier mentioned that we deal with people of cross-cutting disabilities. We deal with young people as well as women, with a bit of interest on issues that relate with children. But we hope that because you have put up that question, that people don't get confused to say it's just an organization basically for short people, but it's just an acronym that we wanted to elevate to be a name that people would actually associate with in relation with issues of disabilities.
Is SOCO's interpretation correct to say no matter the circumstance you find yourself in, your vision has to be as high as possible to achieve your dreams?
Definitely.
That's Born Short, Living Tall. I
Yeah.
think that's the concept.
Yeah.
So now, I want to get into the aspect of...
I think before you go there, Mr. Ntalasha, I just want to get it right here. The issue of being short.
Yeah.
You look well able. You can do anything. Your mind is sane.
Yeah.
But then when we hear the word disability, we always think the otherwise. And people would argue to say, you're not disabled.
Yeah.
You are perfectly fine.
Yes.
What's your argument on that?
You know, when we look at the term disability, we're basically talking about the mismatch that a particular individual will have when they're interacting with the environment. So that's why you see that in disability movement, we advance the notion that disability is not inability. So it is not the inability of someone to perform in other facets of life, in the developmental agenda, in the community life, in the political sphere, in business. No, it's not that inability that we are talking about, but it is the inability because there is a mismatch, or now a particular person will begin to interact with the environment.
Exactly.
Take for instance, someone would have barriers in movement. Another person who have visual impairment who have barriers with sight. So it's that mismatch in relating to how an individual interacts with the environment that qualifies them to either be abled or to be disabled.
Okay.
Yeah, talking about that, I was also talking to Niswaniso Mwanalushi. So what Niswaniso and I usually do is that there are things, because I'm short, that I cannot do. Niswaniso is too short that he can't fit into a small minibus.
A small bus,
so,
yes.
So he says, so these are issues we talk about. So even when we're talking about advancing issues, he talks about to say, you know, these small buses, the way they fit their seats, they are too close to each other. I can hardly fold and fold my legs. All those issues come into being, and I think Mr. Ntarash has explained it very well. Now we get into the matter of things. Your organization at least has seen two administrations. I stand to be corrected. The PF and now the United Party for National Development Administration. Yes. Your advocacy under PF has been ongoing. And now with the new Dawn government, first of all, how has it been in terms of previously, how has the PF accommodated various proposals you made, and how you anticipate the UPND to accommodate some of the suggestions you are making pertaining to issues to do with persons with disabilities?
You know, the fight on the implementation on the rights of people living with disability, the well-known CRPD, where we drive most of our advocacy agenda from. I usually say that, you know, we've got good policies around. There are good policies around. The issue is how those particular policies are benefiting the people on the ground. So with the previous administration, we made a number of calls as an organization, a number of proposals and a number of suggestions. But it is sad to note that there had been a huge gaps, even in the administration of social cash transfer to people living with disabilities. There was a clear mismatch, clear gaps in terms of implementing the policies and the things that we are advancing as an organization. It is our hope that in the new Dawn administration, under His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema, that some of the things that we've been talking about will now begin to be implemented in order for people living with disabilities and the underprivileged to begin feeling the impact of the policies that are already there.
Over time, Mr. Ntalasha, one of the things that has come out really prominent from persons living with disability is being left out in many decision-making positions, especially with the recent by-election in Kabwata. We didn't see any political party appointing anyone from your sector.
Yeah.
Is there political will to foresee other things other than elections? It was just an example, but then to include you so that you speak for yourself.
You know, Article 29 on the rights of people living with disability clearly states that state parties are supposed to incorporate people living with disability in the political affairs of the nation. In last year's general election, I'm sure you had picked it as the media. We had an able lecturer from the University of Zambia, Dr. Thomas Mutonga, who was standing as a member of parliament under PF in Chasefu. We went further as an organization to write letters to secretary generals of different political parties to ensure that in the last year's election, to ensure that people living with disabilities were adopted to stand as members of parliament, councillors, and also on the mayoral position. Now, the question that you brought up concerning the Kabwata by-election is that there has never been a deliberate political will to incorporate people living with disabilities. One of the issues that we can clearly point at, or I can pose back as a question, is how many people living with disabilities do we find in the highest decision-making organs of political parties? Take, for instance, the UPND's National Management Committee. How many people are sitting on that particular committee? The Patriotic Front Central Committee. How many are sitting? The DP's National Executive Committee. The MMD's National Executive Committee. So political will should begin by incorporating people living with disabilities in these national decision committees of various political parties. But until there is deliberate will to incorporate people living with disabilities to sit on these committees, the thing that we sing about for adoptions, to stand in elections like the Kabata by-election, will be far-reached.
Mr. Ntarasha, others would argue, even the same political parties, you people are able to articulate issues. You just want to remain advocating. You don't want to go and stand in those and contest, because the issue of capacity is something where also whereby you can't just get someone who cannot articulate issues. Or they can be on the basis that they have a disability. But they have to also able, and I understand that's one of the prerequisites.
Yes.
They have to be able to advocate for themselves, speak for themselves, and represent the movement.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Ntarasha, if you are continuing to remain in the...
To be an advocate.
Yes, and how are we going to make...
to take the back seat.
That's a very important question. But look at this. It is an issue of deliberate policies made to accommodate people living with disabilities. Why am I saying so? You hear the women movement rise up and demand even for 50% representation when it comes to a political office or political adoptions. You hear youths rise up. Even now, in some sectors of the media, you are hearing youths, in fact, they are even calculating the average years of some people that have been appointed to occupy political office, to occupy highest decision-making offices. But that is not the case for people living with disabilities. So what we are saying is, let there be some deliberate policies to incorporate us. And then the colleagues that you see that articulate matters, that advocate, you see them coming up.
Don't you think that you need to also be more united as the disability movement, and also be holding, for instance, disability symposiums, so that probably you identify each other, you bring everyone on board, you identify your strength and speak in one voice and push yourselves there. While we also play our part to help you steer the agenda as the media. Don't you think we need to do something like that? Because we see the women movement, for example, they would hold the seminars for all those who aspire to be politicians, all those who want to, those who are already MPs, to motivate others, just like that. Don't you think we need to go that route as well?
Definitely. In fact, one of the proposals that we have on the table is to see how best we can be in all the 150 constituencies and begin taking down these trainings to people that are living with disabilities so that we bring them up. Yesterday I was sharing with a colleague on some of the deliberate moves that we feel government should do. Well, I don't know if I'm going ahead of myself, but it's not just in the areas of us occupying political office and decision making. I was sharing with this colleague the importance of government to come up with a deliberate policy in the labor market to allocate at least 5 to 10% employment opportunities to people that are living with disabilities.
I think it's there, but the implementation is
the
there.
Implementation, but again, Mr. Ntarasha, again we see, for example, jobs to do with toll gates.
Yes. That's what
someone has to sit there and just receive money, print a receipt and give, and they just seated. Do you need all those able-bodied persons to be fully occupying those offices? But to what extent are you undertaking that advocacy? I think that's a problem as well.
No, because you know what I was saying to this particular colleague is that because you talked about us holding symposium, so I was trying to marry the two.
Yes.
So the whole idea is that some deliberate policies can be made to build capacity in the disability movement. For instance, you brought up, you gave up a very good example, which I also alluded to, is that people that living with disability, there will be an argument that, well, true to the fact, there are some low levels of education in the movement, but the fact of the matter is that deliberate policies can be made to ensure that they build their capacities. And I gave reference to some courses that at the University of Zambia right now, there will be some courses that will be taken, I don't know, for about 3 months in project management and stuff. Those are short courses, just to build the capacity of different individuals that will be interested. My argument was, why can't that be made for the disability movement? For instance, they would say 50% of all the employment opportunities at RDA, or maybe customer care agents will go to people living with disabilities. And then there are specific trainings made for those interested individuals so that their capacity is built up. But if policy is there, are you getting what I'm saying? But the full implementation of that policy is not there. The question is, why is there a gap?
Exactly. So you are watching Camnet Breakfast, and in conversation we have Mr. Talasha Chisha from the Bonshot Living Tool, and he is the executive director. They are discussing issues with regards to the persons living with cross-cutting disabilities and what government should do to ensure that they are included in these decision-making positions, just to make sure that they have a voice, not only government though, but other line stakeholders that would want to enhance the persons living with disabilities' lives. So yeah, like I mentioned, in studio we have Mr. Chisha. You two out there can call in as well as send those messages and ask him those pertinent questions that you feel they are supposed to do, or probably they are not doing, and maybe they're just crying woof woof, but they're not putting the front legs. You know, they're moving backwards, they're not going forward. So Mr. Ntalasha, this is a very, very wide discussion, and we're going to talk about just different things regarding you as persons with disabilities. We've got a lot of issues, and like you have mentioned, to say it's the inability to do certain things, not necessarily that probably I can't think straight, I can't do this. Looking at probably your height, for example. it's a very interesting height, Mr. Ntalasha, you know. Yeah. How do you manage to get on a bus, just on a lighter note?
Well, you know,
do you need a ladder? Patrick, please go ahead. You don't need to answer that.
You know, I wanted to just to pick something which is I don't know if I would say very funny, but well, there are those challenges. Yes. Sometimes you find yourself on because there are, you know, there are some ATMs that I refer to which are not disability friendly.
Okay, yeah, that's another interesting topic.
Yes. Then I was even just, you know, thinking out of the book, and then I say, how about shopping malls, employing people specifically to take care of people who are living with disabilities, to help them do the shopping. Yeah. So you could imagine you are in ShopRite, and then or in any other shop, and then you
need something on the highest shelf.
Yes. And then you are waiting for an individual to pass by to ask them. And now in these COVID times, people are also skeptical when you ask them. They don't want to come closer.
When most of the workers are working from home.
So I was saying that, why couldn't we have maybe one of these chain stores saying, well, we have dedicated people.
I think we are working on that story. We are going to work on that story.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's an interesting issue because like he explains, you see, how do you get, so they need to be also understanding. To say, okay, let's get someone to help out our clients so that they meet their needs. So there are various issues that barriers, like Sharon, you mentioned. Even some vehicles, Sharon, those that use wheelchairs. So if you want to get on a small bus, they will tell you to say, you have to pay for the wheelchair and pay for yourself again. But and again, you understand that someone is vulnerable and they cannot. It's difficult, first of all, to pay for themselves, and we expect them to pay for the wheelchair. You see, so the vehicles that we have are not disability friendly. So that's an issue. Those are issues in the transport sector.
Yes.
The stations are equally not disability friendly. So when you are going, you want to go to intercity, that confusion that comes with those cowboys, all those things, they affect how services can be accessed by persons with disabilities. Because people won't mind you are using an aiding stick, and they'll just bump on you. They don't mind because they just want to go and look for the next customer. So those are challenges we continue to observe there. But to what extent is the local authorities, like the Lusaka City Council, talking about these matters?
Yes.
If you ask me, Sharon, it is equals to none.
Yeah.
There's not that conversation is not existing.
You're getting hard on them. So, Mr. Ntalasha, we've got a number of issues. Yes. What are those urgent needs that you feel they need to be addressed as soon as possible, without waiting for the 2023 budget, without waiting for the 2022 budget?
Well, I can
bring what I also want to bring to your attention is the aspect of the CDF.
Yeah.
And how you are positioning yourselves
as
to ensure that you actually benefit from that. And is there will, especially that the guidelines are also out? You can also comment on that.
Yeah, in fact, that's where I was going to immediately pose the question, because the hot topic now is the CDF, the Constituent Development Funds. And then, you know, what makes it of primary importance, it is because also of the New Dawn government's will to ensure that they increase the CDF from 1.6 to 25.7 million now. Now, when you look at the CD guidelines, my interest was, we checked on the components and how the distribution is supposed to go, but my interest was on the composition of the CDF committee, which is a critical committee to make decisions on the people that will be receiving soft loans, on people that will be receiving grants, and on the projects that will be initiated in those particular constituencies. And you will realize that the composition of the CDF committee, where power is given to the member of parliament by the minister to appoint that committee, there is no permanent seat or specific seat for people living with disabilities. In those particular guidelines, you will note and see that the minister gives clear direction to say that on the composition of the CDF committee, they have to ensure that there is a balanced representation of youth and women. In other words, what they are saying is that when proposals begin coming in and youth realize we don't have any part, we don't have any project, we don't have youths that will be given grants and loans, their voice will be heard in those particular committees. In the same vein, the voices of women will be heard in those particular committees. Our question as an organization, where will the voice of people living with disabilities come from? Because it is until there is involvement and incorporation of people living with disabilities at the local level that we'll begin seeing now that affecting the decisions that are made at national level. So what we are calling for and appealing for to the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Honorable Karen Kombo, is to ensure that they review the CDF guideline to clearly indicate that there will be a permanent seat for people living with disabilities on those particular committees.
So this is where the issue of political will comes in. Yes. This is something that we've been talking about for quite many years, to say we need a specific seat for persons to speak for themselves. Yes. Equally, like the story we did for children, give them a bill, give them a law that will speak to their needs. But then do you have such legislation that speak to your needs?
Well, like I was saying, to say there are a number of policies that actually speak for people living with disability.
But they are not followed?
It's implementation.
Yeah, we have the Disability Act of 2012.
Yes. So
it's been there for quite some time.
It's been there, but it is the implementation. Take, for instance, there are several issues that we can pick. But apart from the CDF, the other question is the buildings that are currently constructed, are they disability friendly? You get the point. But what is supposed to happen, and what should be happening, is that there has to be an individual that sits on the Committee of National Planning and Development. So that when now those proposals are being brought, they'll be able to lift up their voice and say this particular building must be disability friendly. I don't want to mention some specific public buildings, but there are public buildings in this nation which cannot be accessed by persons living with disability.
Name and shame, especially if they are public buildings. Yeah, name and shame. I mean, if they are public buildings, they need to be cautious when constructing these buildings, because really, it's a public building, and persons with disability also make that public. So why are you not including them? What is that building, Ms. Ntalasha? Honestly, I'm curious. Just speak to them right now. They are listening.
You put me on the spot check now. But I would rather, you know, some of these individuals managing this building are partners, and it would be unwise for me to injure them on live TV.
Funding.
No.
Issues of
but you know, the point of the matter is that we need to implement the policies that are already there. Have running arguments. You know, he talked about unity in the disability movement.
Yes.
And what I'm doing right now is something that most of the people occupying influential positions in our sector wouldn't want me to talk about.
Yeah.
You get the point. But when there are issues and there are problems, because we've been talking about this, I'm sure you colleagues in the media have been following our statements to say it's not now that we've started calling for these things. It's way back in the previous administration, when we were issuing statements on it. If there has been change, we wouldn't have been talking on we wouldn't have remained on the same.
Are you happy with the way the Zambia Agency for Persons with Disabilities is operating?
Or is it one of the buildings that's not friendly?
Well, I believe very much that we have able person at Zapid who are doing what they can do in...
I don't know why. I think you're trying to beat by the bush, because your smile says it all, honestly.
No, it's not that.
It's honestly, your smile says it all. I think it's just one of those buildings. It's one of those public buildings.
That one is not even, doesn't even upstairs. It's not an upstairs building, by the way. So we have able person who are doing great things in the movement to help in the plight of people living with disabilities. But I think a lot can be done, and they need our support as individuals, different promotion organization, advocacy organization. But I think a lot can be done.
All right, you're watching the Camnet Breakfast, and in conversation, just to remind you, we have Mr. Ntalasha Chisha from the Bond Short Living Tour. He is the executive director, and quite a fruitful discussion thus far we've had. We take a short break. When we return, we'll continue the conversation for at least 20 minutes, and thereafter we will have Prudence Trotter to help us answer some of the questions regarding the story of the Black Mountain. Our caller had actually questioned to say, weren't the journalists given an opportunity to ask these questions? But Prudence Trotter, being the one who covered this story, she will be put on the spot, obviously, in the last 5 to 10 minutes of us closing the show. So when we return after this break, we will continue with Ms. Ntalasha for about 20 minutes. Then thereafter, we will talk to Prudence Trotter. Stay with us.
Do you have an extra car? Then make yourself extra money. We would like to put that car, yes, that car parked there, to good use to make you extra money on the side just through its service while keeping it safe and secure. Call 0765 02 3883 to register your vehicle with us today. Delpo Services. Service beyond satisfaction.
Are you a talented and gifted soccer player? Camnet Stars will be conducting trials for young players between the age of 14 and 16 years. You never know, you could be America or Europe bound this July.
We need to pick some players so that we can come up with a very powerful squad which is supposed to travel outside the country and do a lot of work for Zambian football.
Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School Playgrounds. Time, 14 hours. You could be the next big soccer star in Europe. See you this Sunday, 20th February 2022.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
Perfect.
Welcome back. Well, you are still watching the Camnet Breakfast Thursday edition with me, Patrick Soko, and Shalom Kalimbula. And in conversation, we have the Born Short Living Toe Executive Director, Mr. Ntalasha Chisha. We've been unpacking various issues in the disability movement. And now we proceed with our conversation. Scrolling on your screens is the topic of discussion today. We are filmed and talking about the Black Mountain, where you can comment on our Facebook page or call us in studio to just give us your thoughts about that. Then if you want to also contribute towards the conversation we are having about the disability movement, you can equally add your voice to that. And Mr. Ntalasha, yes. I want to also now pick on your thoughts. You had suggested that we need some skills centers or empowerment centers in this constituency as we implement the Constituency Development Fund.
Yes.
Can you expand and elaborate more about that? How would you want that concept to work out, and how would that be beneficial to persons with disabilities?
Our disposition on that particular matter, Soko, was that portion of the 25.7 million kwacha CDF fund should be allocated to the creation of industrial parks. And we said that the creation of these industrial parks should be in line with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. You are well aware that as a nation we did not do much in the implementation of the Millennium Development Goals, and now we have the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals gives a clear picture to developing countries on the gaps that currently exist in their particular nations. So what we are saying is that businesses must be created in line with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So the whole idea is to have these particular trainings happening at constituency level, where people are made aware of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and they are brought to a point where they develop businesses and projects around the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which now will make the composition of the industrial parks, which will be in each particular constituency. Now, imagine if we have we are able to derive maybe for even maybe 30 businesses or projects from the 17 Sustainable Development Goals in each constituency, it means that we have almost closer to 6 or 5,000 to 6,000 different jobs that will be created just from the 17 Sustainable Development Goals.
Interesting stuff there. And we also want to pick your thoughts regarding the one, in terms of the ward development committees.
Yes.
Because at the ward is where everything happens,
yes,
especially as far as the CDF is concerned.
Yes.
So now that you are not active, and you are not active, and are you seeing the revision of the guidelines on CDF? If we are not being revised, are we going to, as a country, to achieve that aspiration of the seventh NDP, though it is expiring this year, as well as
it expired actually last year, 2021.
Yeah, but it's still being implemented because of the 80th NDP is not yet taken effect. But the theme around that was not leaving anyone behind,
Yes.
just like the theme for sustainable development goals.
Yes.
Now, if you are not going to have a voice at that ward level, ain't you being left behind?
You know, what we have decided to do is that beginning this coming week, because you know, some of the things, it shouldn't just end on the point of advocacy. We need to action some of these things. So beginning from next week, we are doing letters, because when you look at the CDF guidelines, they can be reviewed at two levels. Either the minister reviewing them and policy direction is made. Secondly, it can be done at member of parliament level, because the member of parliament in those guidelines has got power to appoint some people pending approval to sit on the CDF committee. So we are doing letters and we are doing proposals to all the 150 members of parliament. So that if we don't see any representation, we will not just hold the minister to book, we will hold the particular member of parliament of that particular constituency to book as well, for the failure to ensure that people living with disabilities are part of the development agenda of the nation. Furthermore, we are going to do an audit on how many projects within constituencies will be run by people who are living with disabilities or who have disability interests. And you know, this audit in the disability sector is of primary importance. You can talk about take for instance, we do a labor audit.
Yes.
Of how many...
Sorry, side.
Yeah, how many people living with disabilities have been employed? How many people living with disabilities are cashiers on targets? How many people living with disabilities are in the private sector and are currently working? So for this 25.7 million, I would want to take this opportunity and send a message to the members of parliament to say people living with disability have got an interest in how this money will be spent. We don't want issues which even people in the media have covered, where money is released for constituency, the constituency development fund, and the next day what you will hear is that the whole money has been used, and then you ask, where did the money go? They said no, they constructed one small toilet at 1 million kwacha.
Exactly.
So that is not what we are going to allow. To my colleagues who are disabled, it is time to be proactive, and it is time to rise up to press demands on the people that were put in office to take care of our needs.
Now, Mr. Ntalasha, not to encourage lawlessness or violence, we have seen you and many other organizations advocate for these rights, but they never happen. Are we seeing any protest from you?
A protest does not mean lawlessness, Sharon.
No, but you know, at some point it was
guaranteed.
Yes, you know, like where we are seeing you chanting slogans, doing what, just to compel the authority to act. Because sometimes letter writing, like you have mentioned, you've written letters before, even in the previous administration, to say we want these things happen, but they never ever happen. And you know, and even this time around, you are hoping that they will listen, but there's no guarantee. Maybe when you go out there and protest, it could work. Are we seeing something like that? Is it in the pipeline?
where we go out and make a demand that
yes,
we need a specific ministry.
Because really, letter writing, it seems it's a formal way, yes, but then do people really act? Do people even open these letters?
We believe that a lot of progress will be made, more especially that this is a new administration of President Hakainde Hichilema, which is just settling down. And,
6 months settling down?
Well, it depends at what angle you're looking at things.
Don't give them the leeway. Keep settling for 1 year.
It depends at what angle in which you're looking at things. But well, there are people that advance issues to say that there is no revolution without taking risks. But actually, we are not.
No, I actually do believe
we are not running a revolution, and we believe very much that with the steps that we are now taking, we'll make a lot of progress. We'll make a lot of progress. But to see us going into the streets, for it to come to those levels, then it would have been maybe something big happening. But I know that if we follow the right laid down channels and we ensure that we are proactive.
Just hold your thought, Ms. Andala. Shall we pick this call? Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us your name and where you're calling us from. Sorry? We can hardly hear you, dear. Okay, please go ahead with your contribution. Wow, the line was pretty bad. It was pretty shocking. So yeah, Mr. Ntalasha, ka protest to kapanga says, imagine.
No, I think we will. It's an issue of following the laid down procedures that are there. It's also an issue of us being proactive and actually taking to book the leaders that we have put in office to ensure that what has been enshrined is what is actually happening on the ground. You know, for the question that Sharon brought up, just to add one point from there, is that we have 20% of the CDF fund allocated to youths and specifically to women, for them to do empowerment project and access get some loans and some grants. Another proposal which we'll put in that particular rate as we interact with different members of parliament is that we are not even asking for a bigger portion as people living with disabilities plus other minority groups. Give 7.5% from that 20% to the youths. Give 7.5% to the women. And give people living with disability and minority groups to access 5%.
5% is a lot of money, Mr. Ndalashi.
Wow,
5% is
towards the end of our conversation. Just your concluding remarks.
Well, firstly, I would like to thank the staff of Camnet for hosting us. You have given a voice to a number of people living with disabilities, obviously through me. And my message, there might be parents or people living with disabilities and who have undergone some segregation or some discrimination of a type. I have a message that it is time for you to arise. It is time for you to come up in the open, and you have our support to ensure that that disabled child has the proper education. I know we're running out of time. I was saying that we need to change the narrative of how people look at people living with disabilities. And one way in which we can do that is we'll also be visiting some corporate institutions to see if they can make some of us brand ambassadors. Imagine you have a disabled child on an Airtel poster or on a Zampa poster.
Beautiful.
It changes the narrative on how people begin looking at people living with disabilities. It also encourages that mother or that father with a disabled child that, well, my child one time or another can be on that particular poster. I was also saying that the appointment of a person or nominating a person living with disabilities to be a minister, it is not well in the mandate given to them or the responsibilities that will be given to them, but it will assist in changing the narrative that even a person with full disability can occupy the highest position. Imagine how much more that can encourage someone living with disabilities and how it can change the narrative. So it is time for us to change the narrative and to come out in the open. This segregation and discriminatory barriers that are there, they will be broken.
Indeed, we've been in conversation with Mr. Talasha Chisha and Chishan Talasha Chisha from the Bone Shoot Livington. He is the executive director, and we've had quite a fruitful discussion. Indeed, disability is not inability, like they always say. On the other side, we will continue with the other conversation. Good morning.
Are you a talented and gifted soccer player? Camnet Stars will be conducting trials for young players between the age of 14 and 16 years. You never know, you could be America or Europe bound this July.
We need to pick some players so that we can come up with a very powerful squad which is supposed to travel outside the country and do a lot of work for Zambian football.
Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School Playgrounds. Time, 14 hours. You could be the next big soccer star in Europe. See you this Sunday, 20th February 2022.
Do you have an extra car? Then make yourself extra money. We would like to put that car, yes, that car parked there, to good use to make you extra money on the side just through its service while keeping it safe and secure. Call 0765 02 3883 to register your vehicle with us today. Delpo Services. Service beyond satisfaction.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
And bananas.
Working, waiting, this what you've been praying for.
Camnet TV is becoming big and better. You can now watch Camnet TV wherever you are around the world, simply by downloading the Camnet TV app. With Camnet TV app, you only use less bundles. Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Are you a talented and gifted soccer player? Camnet Stars will be conducting trials for young players between the age of 14 and 16 years. You never know, you could be America or Europe bound this July.
We need to pick some players so that we can come up with a very powerful squad which is supposed to travel outside the country and do a lot of work for Zambian football.
Venue, Kablonga Boys Secondary School Playgrounds. Time, 14 hours. You could be the next big soccer star in Europe. See you this Sunday, 20th February 2022.
Welcome back. This is the Camnet Breakfast, and we are in the dying minutes. We're still talking about the operations at the Black Mountain and government's decision to give that 10% to the cooperatives, which we are not so sure about where they came from. And this is the bone of contention here. As we promised, we will continue to follow up the story until we get to where it all began, so that you have a conclusive story. However, we're still discussing this. You two out there can call in and send in those messages and give us your contribution with regards to the story. Patrick?
Yeah, I think we have labored on this story, and various issues have come out, and Samakai also included the need to ensure that we put these ministers to task to answer the needed to answer. In fact, he had a press briefing as of yesterday. He needed to respond to this concern to say, what are the names of these cooperatives? Who is involved? What was the selection criteria? All those things, because who knows, Sharon and I wanted to go there with our cooperative to go and be part of the Black Mountain.
Exactly.
Yeah, because we were going to use Frederick Munungwe to show that we also go that side and participate in this mining endeavor, Sharon. Yeah. So, but concerns of transparency and accountability, these are matters we continue to talk about as a country, because everything that is being done by authorities needs to be communicated, and communicated thoroughly, as opposed to holding dark corner meetings. You discuss and make a decision and just come and surprise the people with the final decision you have made as authorities.
Indeed, Patrick, and this is a matter that concerns all of us, because we are hoping for transparency even as government makes these decisions. Like Peter Sinkamba, the Green Party president, had earlier alluded to in one of the clips that we zoomed into. He was saying government has no capability to run these mining companies properly, beginning with how it is faring with regards to the Black Mountain. According to him, he is very, very skeptical about the whole process, and still feels they have not dealt with it the way they are supposed to deal with it.
He featured on our program, Frank on Camnet, on Tuesday, and he brought out a number of issues surrounding the mining sector administration, because it feels that there's no serious policy direction at a time when other countries are making money out of the mining sector because of the lucrative copper prices. The Zambia, on the other hand, is still grappling and giving tax breaks to the mining sector. So that brings us to an issue of how is it going to be possible for us as a country to ensure that we maximize our profits from the mining sector, or we get a lot out of our minerals, because copper or minerals are a diminishing asset, meaning that they cannot be regrown again.
Investing assets.
So they won't be able to say, as we also mine, we have to also be cognizant of future generations. We need to also start conversation as a country surrounding the issue of mineral reserves. They just have to be minerals that are reserved for the future mining activities, and not just for current activities. I think those are stories as a journalist we need to be working on to ensure that we remind authorities of this important resource and how it can be utilized to safeguard the future generation, because at the moment I think we have a very detrimental situation where, as opposed to our children inheriting riches through our minerals, our children are going to be inheriting debt.
They will be inheriting the Black Mountain.
And if you see the debt that we have, Sharon, at the moment, this
keeps ballooning.
Goes to your grandchildren, and they will be part of servicing that debt. And these are issues we've been advising government through and through as media practitioners, through the stakeholders like the NGO movement, who do conduct these researches, especially pertaining to mineral development in Zambia. Among key as the Civil Society for Poverty Reduction, the Center for Trade Policy and Development. They have made a lot of policies surrounding the mining sector.
They've made a lot of recommendations.
Yeah, recommendations. And if you ask me, Sharon, there is also that component of the gold mining in Zambia. And gold mining, they think
the famous Kasenseri.
Yeah, gold administration in the country has not been good, and these are things that we need to ensure that we make sure that we benefit from our resources, because we are a rich country. We have gemstones. We have it all.
Yeah.
But how do we ensure that we get the benefits? And the concept of value addition is something successive governments have not done. Even the new Dawn government is talking about maximizing tonnage in terms of copper outputs or production of copper, doubling or tripling the production capacity by giving the relief to the mining sector. Quite right, it may be a good policy, but what are we going to do with that in terms of ensuring that we add value to that mineral that we are extracting out of the grounds? We have the issue of electric vehicles coming, and Zambia is a copper producing country, and we should be happy that we are going to benefit from this industry.
But we don't.
But we are not positioning ourselves very well as a country, and conversations around that are not overwhelming. So we need to be talking at value addition, and value addition is what we're going to guarantee us jobs at the end of the day. Sharon.
Indeed, Patrick, some of the messages here says cadres are humans also, just a name that sounds very, very bad. And obviously they are contributing to the topic that we have here. And Mobs Georgia says it's just the same as in PF, it's been given to cadres. So when they're finishing up the SMS says synonymous to crimes and illiteracy. So basically those are some of the messages that we have today with regards to the topic of discussion that was the Black Mountain operations. Patrick, as we wind up the breakfast show, you're winding, is it winding remarks or your concluding remarks?
Whatever you
or your
prefer.
final remarks?
Whatever you prefer.
But there's always a remark somewhere.
Interesting. Well, my final remarks is that we are going to come back next week, Sharon and I, as we come with another episode of the Camnet breakfast. There's the Wednesday edition where we focus on governance and policy, and we're going to make sure that we bring you a fully packed show. We are introducing new segments effective Monday, and be sure to catch the breakfast. We're going to make it rewarded and ensure that it meets most of your needs. We are really working hard to ensure that this breakfast is relevant to you, our dear viewers. And we also want to call on the corporate community to just find themselves into the breakfast by advertising with us as Camnet TV. There are various shows you can equally advertise on this TV station. And just as we continue to provide the content that is relevant to our viewers, we are going to ensure that we do the best of the best of your interest as our dear viewers, and we value your watching this station. Just be sure to always be glued to Camnet TV.
All right, this has been the Breakfast Show Thursday edition. My name is Sharon Kalimbola with Patrick Soko with a bald head that looks like a mirror. I would actually wear my makeup using your head. But anyways, that's... We will talk about that on the other side, how we're going to ensure that is bald head of yours. I use it as a mirror. So yeah, we've discussed quite a number of issues on this show, and we were talking to Mr. Ntalasha with issues on cross-cutting disabilities, and we will hope that you can continue the conversation by sending those messages on our broadcast. Even as we cut this broadcast, you can still watch because we stream on our Facebook as well as YouTube channel. My name is Sharon Kalimbla once again with Patrick Soko on the other side. Good morning.